Good morning. It's October 19th, 2017, and I'm speaking with Heather. How you doing, Heather?
I'm good, Easy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm still got a little froggy in my voice since it's 6
Yeah,
a.m. We're not quite here.
I put my AM voice in too. So
there you go.
Okay. I just want to say thank you to you and to everyone for all the comments, the messages, the frequencies, the vibrations, and the supports. And there were some beautiful ones that showed up at the car house. Also, 6 of them in form. So we're rocking and rolling. It was great. So thank you for asking to catch up. All right. So do you want to just ask the questions and we can start from there, or?
Yeah. Well, let me just, if you can just give us, the court case, which really isn't a case, but anyways, the purported court case and the hearing that went on yesterday is one thing. It's a really a small piece of the bigger picture. But if you can give us just a brief overview of what happened yesterday, because we all see it from different perspectives and different layers, and a lot of people look at it from just a linear layer and think, okay, the date was yesterday, they were supposed to say, yes, she's a bad person, or no, she's free, or any of those kinds of things. And now's the time for people to really understand that there's a whole lot more going on in layers. So if you can give us an overview of what happened and on really what happened yesterday, that would be a great way to start.
Okay, so yesterday was I've done many of these, especially throughout the investigations. Mind you, it's the first time ever being done with the filings, because every other time before was actually what resulted in the filings. And every time during these 17 years that something like this occurred in whatever field, especially in 2010 to 2012 through the legal field, there was so much help from the inside. What I mean by the inside is those that are, were with the Federal Reserve, U.S. Treasury, the FBI, U.S. Marshals, judges such as Supreme Court, federal judges, state judges, and district judges, military, CIA, and there was just so many involved. A lot of bankers involved as well in those filings, and making sure they were all done. And of course, at times people had their own agendas of what they wanted to do with such filings, especially the perpetuity filing, which basically sat and allowed everyone to do what they were doing for 11 years. So yesterday was similar to every other time, except for it's gotten faster each time that happened, which is just it deals with core beliefs being mirrored and then shifted. And there was a lot of that mirroring yesterday that was going on at the courthouse. I was very focused on what I was focused on. There were everybody that was there, whether they recognized it or not, we were all doing it together, and there is a purpose. Now, I would like to remind everyone, this case is, if it feels contrived, it feels staged. Yes, all of it is. Absolutely. From the top all the way down. Okay? And what I mean by contrived is just making visible all that isn't, and assisting in making visible all that is.
Right.
So
it's not your normal court case by any stretch of the imagination.
No. When I was in D.C., that was the biggest thing. The top of the former hierarchies, it was, even their keepers, there was so much chicanery going on, and so much shenanigans and some other words, and it was just kind of we don't know what to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and one of those keepers is a really good friend of mine, has been, and he was very helpful in making sure all this was done. Of course, now he's sitting there very upset because nothing's going as he expected. So that was, the results, the end results that we were looking at in a very focalized way, as well as the big picture way, have all been accomplished and more. So here we go. The court yesterday was great. It was a lot of education, a lot of asking questions. There was, again, certain agendas that were brought into the courtroom, but nothing went as they expected with that either, which is great. It's not my first rodeo. It's not my 10th rodeo. It's, this isn't anything new, and it's just shifting. Like I said, we already knew the end results before we even did any of this. So it was the details. Those were that's what was left up to discussion as far as each creating their own experience. And that's another one of the biggest lessons right now is, certain ones, I guess you could say, who have worked these jobs, followed their scripts, and, I can empathize because I experienced all that. And it's very difficult to shift from that. I mean, your whole core beliefs, when your identity is built around those core beliefs actually identify you. Those are very, very difficult. It can be very painful to the one going through it.
You got a lot of background noise. So.
Yeah, Judy, it's coming in and out. Can you hear now?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. So yesterday went really, really well. There were just some questions regarding what the recipe is, and I prefer to just, with the transcripts, usually transcripts are gotten and read. If they're not, then they aren't. But a lot was done, and I'd rather talk about the big picture because this case is just one actual tool or action that is going on, globally and universally speaking, and they are all coordinated, every single bit of it, and everything is interconnected. So that's what I would like to focus on, because this part did its thing. It's only one part that everyone is inundated with right now. There's so much inundation with a lot of experiences happening, a lot of things crumbling, a lot of things, just exploding into manifestation of self, exploding out in and coloring everything so beautifully and overlighting and just dissolving that which isn't,
Right, and everybody's part of that. Everybody that was in the courtroom yesterday is part of that, and
everybody on the planet.
Right.
Everyone in existence.
Right. But I just wanted to bring that, we'll get to the big picture in 1 second. I just want to kind of, because I know a lot of people aren't quite there yet, and so they're thinking, but the court case. So I got it, Heather, but I'm trying to dance between
I know, go ahead.
the big and the others listening. So yesterday, lots of shift happened. There was a lot of people who were there who we had a conversation with, and everybody's gotten to hear that, to see the shifting and changing. So because this isn't your ordinary court case, and that's a misnomer anyways because there really weren't any, and they were all kind of plays. But as far as the determination, some people are saying, well, what happened, and so on and so forth. Is it fair to say that a lot happened yesterday in the courtroom that has much more bearing on how everything unfolds and falls down and wraps up and resolves within the purported court case than just swearing in, raising your hand, and some kind of legal dancing?
Yeah, it's the same thing that's happened in every single court case that I have worked on in the last, since 2010, so the last 7 years. It's all banking. You know, that was the biggest thing that came out was that courts are banks. They're just another branch of a bank. So, similar to the cases that have occurred over the last 7 years, it doesn't matter what's said in there. It doesn't. It doesn't matter what's said in there. It's what matters is what happens behind the scenes. That's
right.
how courthouses work. It's the same thing that happened with all the judges when I was in Washington. And those were just the ones that were in the courthouse, mind you. They were not aware that judges, even from D.C. and federal judges, were all working, DOJ as well, and some FBI and marshals were working on cases. These are the traps that we set. This is, what is necessary. And for me, I've really enjoyed, I should say, working and being immersed and playing with law since I was in law school. It was just very fascinating to me. I just love the theater of it, or I loved the theater of it, I should say. I do not love the theater of it anymore. I just go in and, it's really about just tones and vibrations and frequencies. And people will laugh about that, especially ones that are very mired in their professions. They will laugh at that, and yet it's what every single thing they do is created with.
Right.
So that's, conscious versus unconscious. And yet there's a part of everyone that is very conscious. That's what is usually referred to as the unconscious part. So
right.
It's the banking side. That's what's going to be made visible, as it has 100% every other time. There'll be lots of theatrical, theater going on inside of a courtroom, but, at the end of it all, you can actually see that what actually occurs is behind the scenes. And that's why the judgments don't, or the actions, the final results don't match what the theater was in a courtroom.
Right, right.
Okay.
Okay, so we can. I think we can. That was a great explanation. So the big part that you're about to talk about is really what matters, and it's a good thing if people focus on that and their own part in it. And we'll see the quote-unquote court case wrap up, and we'll get those answers and those resolutions as we all take part in the bigger part.
Yeah, it's, the segue into this part was, yesterday there had been a declaration of statement of assessments, reconciliations, and settlements. And one thing that did come into court during all of this was, there's so many that go out and practice liens, like apply liens to judges, teachers, law enforcement, public officials, and I put those all in quotes. And I don't, because of the way everything works, everything even before, especially the United States with the bankruptcy and everything else that had been done, of course that's all been satisfied, and that's the part that hasn't come out yet for everyone, at least where they can visibly see it, is that something that's bankrupt can't gift or can't produce anything.
Right.
Usually it's only the ones that are sucking the bankruptcy from the bankruptcy, which is none of them are here in in America or the United States of America, or however you want to say it. That was a really big thing for them, and they were kind of tense, and I was like, no, that's a ledger. That's just a statement of what's been actually ledgered since July 25th. Right. And you can actually see the results of that ledgering, and it hasn't, it's the ones, it's not ledgered against C. Clifford Shirley Jr. or Anne Marie Zolto or Cynthia Davidson, Nancy Haar. No, it is ledgered against those that have put them in the positions that they are in and doing what they are doing. And that's why when you ask for their authority and their authority, they can't give it to you.
Right. So the one moving all the chess pieces, which we think of as human beings and judges and whatever their title is are the ones that it's ledgered against.
Right. No. Yes. No. Yes, it is ledgered against those that have put them in those positions. It's not ledgered against those beings. I actually put everyone was removed.
The chess players. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's the chess players, and everyone has been removed legally and financially from those chess pieces. So I explained to them that is not a lien.
Right.
And I don't do liens at all. I said that's just what is ledgered. This is the big part, right, is everyone's talking about cryptocurrency and this, this digital ledger. And basically this digital ledger, this what they call like a natural ledger, it is just a copy of the actual ledger universally that all these go through. Okay, so like BIS was the entrance and exit point for the ledgering here. So on this planet, basically, it was a mirror system, and then everything would just get ledgered up. Now, it's the same as just ledgering on a screen, but not going and collecting from anyone. Because if you start collecting from someone, it will raise questions. People will start literally seeking why.
Right.
So they use a mirror system and then just have everyone as registered keepers or tenants. That way they have the illusion that they own something, that they actually have power and all of that. But with the mirror system, it's it's fraudulent, number one, and it's not the original.
Right.
Okay. So that's what was actually taken down. That was a big thing in court yesterday. I was like, the only thing that's been shut down are all corporations that operated under the guise of government. People believe that they had governments. That's why they never really asked questions. Now you see a lot of questions being asked because things are not adding up.
Right.
Okay. And that's because you have all the fraudulent mirrored systems collapsing right before your eyes, crumbling, shattering, however you want to describe it. And the only thing that's left is what has always been there, is actually all that is. And that universal ledgering, it's what blockchains, each individual on this planet is part of a universal blockchain.
Right.
And that's what the universal commercial conversion system was based on, and it was in there as well. That's why everything was just closed down. So Shirley and those guys were faced with the same kinds of questions. Well, how? This doesn't mean anything. And like these statements that are made, and it's kind of like, great, you made that statement, now go and put that in writing and, validate and verify that that's what it is. And do a sworn declaration, and then therefore it, that's at least some kind of rebuttal, and we'll see how much of a rebuttal it is. But,
right.
There was that, I don't have to. And it's like, okay, well then, the record is void. It is void.
Right.
Of your authorization or jurisdiction. Well, it's the same thing that's happening on the universal side, is those that were creating and running and managing mirrors are really upset because those mirrors are gone. They're now seen. For the most part, you're about to see the rest of them. And, they can't stop the universal ledgering that is going on. And so you're going to actually have those that were part of the universal trust of all of existence, they're now coming in. That is what is going to be seen. China and Russia have been prepping for it. They've been releasing documents, and, those in America were not releasing. That's been their biggest concern since 2010 was how do we tell everyone that we've been lying to them all this time?
Right.
Washington, D.C. is in a panic ever since July, and they're trying to figure out what to do. Meanwhile, China and Russia just sort of they put out the evidence they have that America has also been doing all this. They put their own stuff out, but also put out America. So you have all this interaction, engagement with former Universal Trust partners that nobody knew about. It's where all the advanced technology came from, and then of course got buried by certain broker families, mind you, these families like Rothschilds and Rockefellers and all the international equivalents were just keepers. They were just managers or brokers at best.
Upper middle management.
Yeah, they were never the top. So it's the top that is actually coming in now. They've been, that happened in 2016, which is what was, lovingly dubbed as the tipping point, which is what the Supreme Court Justice in D.C., insisted years ago. That's what needs to be created, is this tipping point. There are a lot, everyone inside, and I'd already had enough experience with those inside of different agencies and departments, making sure that things changed. There's a lot of good people out there. So, any kind of worry that there was going to be retribution and all of this, honestly, when it all is there and everyone accesses their own inner tech as well as any kind of device or mechanism that anyone chooses externally or seemingly externally to use, they don't care. Right. They don't care about what went down before. They're just so happy that now they get to do all that they choose to do. And they don't have to fight any more battles. I can tell you that in my experience, there really is no battle except for an inner battle. Right. Okay.
Right. Absolutely. But that's a battle in itself to get to that realization.
It's daunting. Yeah. Everyone is exhausted. Okay. Yeah. Me included, because everyone sees this. For instance, yesterday that was a courtroom, and it was intense. Yes, but I mean, it's nothing that. Actually, it was less intense than any other one that I've done. However, for those that were there, and I wouldn't say they were only watching, everyone was doing, whether, they were speaking or not. Right. Everyone was involved, and there were so many more that weren't even seen that were involved. Mm-hmm. And so it is that kind of thing that is happening everywhere. So right now, the big part is that you're going to have come in for everyone to see and recognize is you're having the old completely fail to work. Right. I don't care.
On every level, every system, everything.
Everything. Mm-hmm. It's just going to fail to work. And all of a sudden, the incredible abilities and which have unconsciously been used this entire time. That's the best thing, is when they come out and they're consciously used every time. The remark was, my God, I've been using those forever, just unconsciously. Right. And that has been the most fun. And now, but I can tell you, everyone's tired of having to go and shift and, face, be a mirror even, or any of it. Everyone's tired. Mm-hmm. So now we have the former Universal Trust partners that all the families and management and brokers here used to work with secretly. That's what's all coming out now for everyone else. So of course, the most of the feelings and attitudes that have been manufactured, whether by Hollywood or by politicians or Stephen Hawking or any of these guys, you're going to find that a lot of the stuff that you've been hearing over the last 20 years and more, that it's been done by those ones that they would like for you to think are threats. They're just in D.C. D.C., China, Russia. That was the big thing back in early July, was they were upset because those former Universal Trust partners pulled everything away from them, mm-hmm. where they were the filter for entrance on this planet to manage, to bury and use for their own private profit. Right. Those partners all pulled away from them, and they all sided with, humanity and human being. Those words are very charged. I do not like to use them because just in the use of them, but it has been an experience we've all had. So right now you have these former Universal Trust partners that have quietly, secretly been working with these families and secret societies and, seeming leaders of all these different corporations operating under the guise of government, they're all coming to work directly with humanity. No more filters and no more, it's just going to all be transparent, and you can't have transparency without complete context. So when there is this actual meeting, and mind you, China, Russia, and America and others have been preparing for this for the last month, is that these beings are very familiar. And it's because you've actually had interaction with all of them for this entire time. There was just no complete context.
Right.
So the complete context is what is going to be provided, and that is the biggest picture and the biggest part. And those filings that were done, they were done by everyone. I may have just typed them in, but they were done by everyone for the entire mirror system, so that they could be removed, and only all that is comes in. So there is already a value system, and it's unlimited. And that's what is now going to be coming in and utilized. It's already being utilized, but it's going to be utilized by everyone. So that's the big picture of what is actually coming in. And I'm going to be very happy, because I would really like to be back with, my family and loved ones, and everyone. I love everyone, of course, but it's been. I'm happy to hang up these hats.
Yes.
To hang up these hats, if not just burn them. It's been a long 20 years. I'm grateful that I did it, because I knew that it would never be done again, personally, So that was another big part yesterday. I was like, I've not committed any kind of crime. If anything, you have 20 years worth of work that's showing that I, stop fraud, stop bank fraud and wire fraud and all these other things. So, that was the best part. I told Cynthia Davidson, as soon as I get the proof of the accounts, which is coming out, everyone's actually going to have proof of everything. Now, mind you, none of this, it's not money and, other forms of tools like religion or politics or education. Everything is just a tool, right? So it's not about those tools. It's about each individual being one, and all these flavors and beautiful, unique frequencies each makes up the total, but also is the total in themselves. And so that's what's going to be applied consciously by every single one in existence. So I'm very excited for these moments, but I am busy, ready to have some of my particular hats that I've worn for the last 20 years to retire. And I'm very excited about that. So my love to everyone on everything everyone's doing. And yes, I see everyone's really kind of pinning things on this case. And like I said, if you feel it's contrived or staged, it absolutely is. There's reasons you can't find history for Parker Still. There's reasons, or you can't go very far because everything was contrived and designed at the formerly top highest levels. So here we go.
Because all the world's a stage, and we need this last part of the play to reveal everything. It's a very simplistic way to put it, but
yeah, absolutely. And then, like I said, one thing that occurred that was really, it was noted, and oh my gosh, it was so significant in shifting so much along the ladder rungs, of the former hierarchies, the ones who still just perceive that, these hierarchies exist and all that was shattered as far as, in July. And all along, they've known something was coming up, but they didn't know what for, because of all the quote-unquote glitches and hacks. And I can tell you they're not glitches and they're not hacks. They just are, their access to facilitate and manage is being removed. It was revoked as far as them being custodians, but as far as facilitators, that was left in place. because they wanted a physician to participate, and that is actually what's been removed right now. So you have, let's just say, some more context, complete context is coming in as far as those glitches, those hacks, quote unquote, that they weren't glitches and hacks.
Right.
That was their, it's sort of like the lights dimming out right before the play starts back up. That was their cue that, you're being removed from having any access to facilitate. And that's by the top levels. So
intermission is over, the intermission being kind of the time between the filings were filed and everything was closed down and they were still playing. Intermission's over, and now those glitches were the lights dimming to say get back in your seat. And
yeah, basically this is it. This is it. And they could have made decisions, so many decisions along the way. We've already seen, or at least we're seeing the effects of the decisions that they did make. That is, it was like September 15th, while I was on that 30-day tour, there was a decision to make, implemented to make ACH payments same day. I'm just giving you one example of the ledgering that was going on, and basically making that same day. You had so many trustees from overseas and whatnot who had bought securities, and basically it's the human trafficking via monetary instruments, which occurs all over this planet, or did occur all over this planet.
Right.
Well, that's what in the filings since November 28th, 2012, for every prejudice that has been done against everyone, it was $10 billion in pre-1933 gold and silver for each one. Now, you can go and imagine how many prejudices, and it was already ledgered. That's why you have a lot of countries that for years have been talking about, everything's going to be gold-backed and, hard asset-backed. That was the Basel III. And basically Basel III, they knew what was coming, so they knew they wouldn't be able to pull things out of the earth anymore. So it was, okay, we'll just point to it. Right? And we'll use scans and everything to prove that it's there so that we can monetize. Well, none of that would work. So then it became, okay, gold, and you had China and Russia, and I, from 2008 onward, that was the thing that I worked with personally, starting in Hong Kong. They wanted to accumulate more physical gold.
Right.
And I can tell you, none of it, what little physical gold is on this planet, there's a reason why it's there, and it was so that footprints would be made. And those footprints are what have been made visible and are being made visible. There is no gold. Nobody's even questioning, okay, why is everyone moving to cryptocurrency? Or, instead of the gold and silver, wasn't China and Russia and everyone else ready to launch that? Wasn't this beautiful SDR, which are special drawing rights, which have always been used quietly by the top managers and keepers, such as Rothschild and Rockefeller and everybody else. It's just amazing that everyone's kind of not even sitting there going, why is everyone moving to crypto? What happened to the gold and silver?
Right. Because it's a shiny new thing. Look over here, look over here.
Yeah, because there is no gold and silver, and yet there is, there's beautiful things that are going because, like I said, everything's interconnected. And years ago, it got labeled as a gold exercise, but, explained this exactly what's going to happen. If certain, you can make your choices, but if it's not, if it's not the end result, you're just choosing your experience of how you're going to experience the end result.
Right.
Essentially. And so you had the gold exercise, and then, of course, back in October 2013, someone dumped 16 tons of gold in the piazza in Switzerland. Just as a little reminder, this is what's going to happen. That's not what the gold exercise was actually Universal Trust Partners coming in, and all the gold and silver just manifesting on the streets in a very particular way, right? And that's essentially what's happening. You had the two stars explode on the 17th a couple days ago, and
So you had the two, I'm sorry, there was a background noise. You had the 2 stars, say that again?
The 2 stars exploding.
Right.
That I was watching. You had the gold and platinum and uranium and everything just spilling out. Mm-hmm. That's just 2 stars. Everyone has everything, and that's what's going to be experienced, not just known by some, not just hoped by many, and not just completely unfathomed by a few. You know, everyone's got everything, so it's just everyone utilizing it at this point. There's so
and looking
much
within to
value.
realize that they have, what they're wanting is they already have. They just have to tune into it and realize it.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, I've explained this. Gosh, when I worked with the FBI when I had visited Occupy Wall Street, LA,
mm-hmm.
and actually I wasn't even there for that. I was there for I was actually working out I was doing the investigative part on personal service with the governor of California and the AG, the Attorney General. I got asked to go and just assess and look at Occupy Wall Street, LA. And it was very interesting. There were lots of undercover agents involved in that and actually running parts of the Occupy Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And those ones, I recognized them right away. And they were very, this is when I met Foster Gamble, or first introduced to Foster Gamble as well. And they were just very upset that they had kind of been outed, but then they were like, okay, this is what's going on. I was like, yeah, no, I get it. I already knew much of that, and it's not my part, right? And that was the interesting part, was movements. I don't subscribe to movements. I know a lot of people even created movements around what I was doing. That was, I think that was part of what Shirley had said yesterday, you and your followers, and I'm just kind of giggling, and I just sit there, and it really is just kind of, we did such a beautiful job at making sure ignorance was such a huge part of these corporations operating under guises of governments.
Right.
And I inwardly cringe at using the word ignorant, incompetent. But that's what it is. But it's contrived, because the being itself is not ignorant. It's not incompetent.
Right. We're just well trained to be patted on the head and don't worry our pretty little thing about it.
I know. And it's sort of like, how do you explain you're incompetent and you're ignorant, and then turn around and say, and you're not.
Right.
Right? It's just so multi-level, or has been. So that's the big part. So these movements, it's just the movement of body, movement of consciousness. That is what this is all about. And I don't care what acronyms or names you put to it. That in itself is just very limiting. So I don't subscribe to that. But all you can, as we move forward, just deal with what is in front of you. Right. And know that you made it so it was in front of you. And that you have every single tool and every single capability to deal with it as you're dealing with it. It's like yesterday there was a lot of core beliefs that were mirrored. And they're now going to have to shift. And it's not just me that's working on that. They're going to, typically what has happened in the past, they receive calls.
Right.
Or visits. And there's these huge shifts. I personally watched it with Boss. Was probably the most visible one in this particular doing that started in July. And it happens every single time. And it's happened even with Lloyd, with Francis Lloyd, and loved meeting the new Albo Council of Randy.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He's just, it's really interesting because they get curious. They're fascinated. Right. They can actually, because they're seeing also behind the screens, behind the scenes, and they know things are up. So it's interesting, you either have one of two very extreme or intense reactions. One is just complete fascination, and then there's this huge, like, commitment to moving things along, or there's this angry, and then very, they withdraw into themselves and just sort of shell up like a turtle hiding in its shell. So it's very interesting. I do not see any of those, and I think Forrest Wallace was the last one I saw just totally go into his shell, involved with this particular instance here in Knoxville. Washington, D.C., like I said, is just in a scramble right now. Don't worry, though. It all works out. I knew the end result, which is why I even did all that we did, and there were a lot of people involved in this, in all these agencies and departments, and banking. It's the banking stuff that is absolutely, those mirrors they're dissolving right now, very visibly for everybody to see. So, with Occupy Wall Street and all that, lots of monies get trafficked, lots of fraud occurs, and then everything got moved on September 15th with a little stopover in Spain to be able to finance all that to Switzerland, to BIS. And that's where everything is pretty much sitting. So they fortified everything, but yet really it is just fortifying it for the use by everybody else. And if, that doesn't occur, they already know what's going to happen. That physical, gold and silver and all these other devices and mechanics that we've used in the past or valued in the past are going to be out on the street for everybody's use. So either way, it's all covered. And even that part, there's another part with, you have the Eternal Essence cards, which are, if they become irrelevant, it's absolutely okay. Everyone is okay with that because the inner tech comes out and, what do you need money for when you can manifest all that you want? So you have a lot of new, I wouldn't say schools in the aspect of what we typically have a reference point for. You just have a lot of people doing with the knowledge that's inside. The schools are already done. They've been done. Everyone here on this planet is a master. That's why they're here at this time. Right. Absolutely. Okay. So the manifesting is, there's so many layers to this, and we covered every single thing, and we are completely capable of creating anything on the spot, on the ground, that needs to be created for that which hadn't been fathomed during the planning stages for everyone, that everyone was involved in. Right, and as everything is crumbling, if someone had been pointing, well, there's debt. No, the debt was all, that is what part of the filings were about too in December 10th, 2012, was that all perceived debt. You had the affidavit of full performance and a declaration of certificate of satisfaction. So there has been no debt this entire time. They've been trying to create it, but they can't even create it. Right. But what I'm just saying is for people who can't quite get their, I'll just use the simplistic phrase there, wrap their mind around this right now, because they're still looking at what they've been trained and taught and think it is. Oh, right. Yeah. Well, that's the cosmic humor of it being Equifax, right? Right. So there is no, those are subtle or subconscious cues to everyone. That Equifax is the one that basically manages everyone's credit scores, right? Right. To create, supposedly create debt or to enter into debt by promissory notes or loans or any of that, which doesn't work. There was no accident that it was Equifax that was chosen. Right. Okay. Everything, if you can see beyond appearances, you can actually see what's going on, and that is all beautiful. Yeah, there's dots lighting up all over the place. You just have to, feel into the dot rather than trying to think it to death, because it's taking you in the wrong direction if you think it to death. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Any other questions? No, actually, I'm really good. I'm just trying to parse out some, see if there's one last question kind of for those who... the case will be finished by paper. Yeah. It's finished by paper. Right. That was my thought. Okay, great. So I appreciate you immensely and all that you've done and all that we've all done, all of us, all around the planet. Yeah, everyone. And get a little bit of rest
and, if not the big family time rest yet, and we'll keep playing and expanding, and I love you.
I love you too. Thank you, and thank you to every single one. You are Oh, I was going to tell you. I wanted to make sure this comes out. Yesterday at the courthouse, mind you, I'm very focused. I don't know who's entering the courtroom after the fact.
Right.
And so it was only after I had come out of the courthouse finally, and there were the people that had traveled to come and actually be in the courtroom, which was a great alchemical experience for everyone involved, whether they are aware of it or not.
Right.
Those ones showing up unexpectedly, because that's traditionally how it's always worked for me, is you can always expect the unexpected. A lot of scenarios are run, and then when people show up, they didn't expect. Well, there was one that I met back in 1980s, and when I saw her, I just kept thinking, God, I know you. I know you. I've met you, and she's beautiful. She's a doctor. She was an orthopedic surgeon, and basically what I've encountered in the legal and banking world, she did in the medical. And
right.
It happened to be Debbie Thomas, who when I was training for, to join the Olympic teams, I had Olympic trainers, Olympians who had actually competed in the Olympics who were training me. I was just so enthralled with any Olympian. And so there were the ice skaters, because I used to ice skate. Loie made sure I did every sport so I could have that experience. And we went to go see the ice skaters, and it was Nancy Kerrigan, Debbie Thomas, Christy Yamaguchi, and we had backstage passes because they had come to Tacoma back in the 80s to do a tour. It was after they had all, it wasn't a competition. It was just a tour. And we got to go in the back, and I got to meet Debbie Thomas, who was my favorite out of them all. And my mom, of course, being Loie, Christy Yamaguchi, was upset about her performance and all this stuff. And so she was crying in a corner, and my mom went to go console her, and I was so embarrassed because I was so young at the time and didn't understand a lot of what Loie did.
Right.
And so I met with Debbie Thomas, and I was just, it was such a moment for me. And then I'm sitting there yesterday, and I'm going, oh, my God, I know you. She goes, well, I used to be famous. She was behind the doctor. And I was like, oh, my God, you're Debbie Thomas. So all these emotions and frequencies that I had experienced back in the 80s started to flood me and flood me with, about Loie and about Christy Yamaguchi and all that stuff going on. And I'm just sitting there going, you were my hero. And I'm just sitting there. She's like, you're my hero. And as we're going through it, I'm taking in every frequency that was packed back from 1980 and was delivered yesterday. This is how alchemy works, and we're all these incredible alchemists. And it was such an amazing experience for me. And there was another part, too, after I had done the September 29th filing, I was like, there's other parts of me that are going to come out and be made visible, and a lot of that has to do with my positions that were formerly undisclosed regarding Bank for International Settlements and the Universal Trust. And so I was like, let's do this and thing where, let's try this stuff out and just for fun. And we'll videotape it and we'll put it out. And Judy was telling me about this QHHT. And my mom knew Dolores Cannon and all that stuff. And so I was like, oh, yeah, I heard about her. It's kind of like Urantia and the quantum jumping and all this. This material was always floating around our house, and I never paid attention to any of it, right? And so I was like, okay, we'll try that. And then Debbie's sitting there, and she's like, I'm doing the QHHT because you can't find anyone here. And mind you, I'd never even heard of the QHHT, like what it actually all entailed. I'd heard the acronym, but I didn't know. And I was like, oh, yeah. And Judy was like, we were just talking about that, but nobody around here does it. And Debbie's like, I do it, and I have to do 25 of them, kind of a thing. And so there's a setup for that, and we're going to videotape it. But I had the most incredible alchemical experience, and it was so visible for everyone that was around me, not just regarding the 80s, and all those frequencies, but also this QHHT thing. And here's someone that brought all that together, So I had a wonderful moment. I just wanted to mention that, and my love out to Debbie and to all the women that were there, Pixie and Sheila and Lisa and Kate and just everyone. and of course Patricia. It was beautiful to see her. So everyone was there, and there was a lot more to all of this. I'm not going to go into that right now because that's a part of everything that comes out now regarding the the former Universal Trust partners that were always kept secret and usually filtered through just the families and planetary keepers on this planet. So onward ho. I love you guys. Wonderful work. I'm such in gratitude for all that you being do, and as all flows.
Cool. All right. I'll talk to you later. I love you. Bye.
Love you too. Bye.